Director of Admissions for the full-time MBA and MSBA programs. We have Kara Sanye, who's here as well, and then the director of our Career Management Center, Patti Zettek, will be moderating this event as we'll get to introduce our alums that will be joining us. I just want to go over a few housekeeping rules. Feel free to unmute yourself or have your cameras on if you have any specific questions that we will save toward the end. But for the time being, during the webinar, if you'll keep your microphones turned off, that would be great. This webinar in particular is focusing on career paths and exploring those career paths through an MBA program. So we're going to be sticking to that topic for today. But if you have any questions about the admissions process or program in general, we're happy to talk about that. We have a webinar that will be coming up in a couple weeks that kind of goes over our program overview. So you can certainly learn a little bit more about that, or you can certainly schedule a one-to-one time with our admissions team to talk more specifics about applications. We may have time at the end for Q&A, but again, I just kind of want to take this time for our alums to talk about their experiences. So I'm going to introduce our Career Management Center Director, Patti Zettek, and let her talk about the resources that our Career Management Center has and her team.
Thanks, Lee. Hey, everybody from Athens, Georgia. Welcome. Glad to have you on our call today. I'm Patti Zettek. I have been with the Terry College since 2008. I have a little bit of an kind of an unusual background. I came from private sector. I cut my teeth in industry with big oil, and technically it was with the mobile plastics division of Mobil Oil Corporation. So I rose through the ranks there in sales and marketing. They called everything marketing there, basically, if it was customer touching in any way, shape, or form. So sales and marketing is what I did until I moved into regional management and have been here in this Career Management Center since 2008. We are pleased to have an enormous amount of talent on our team. 3 of our alumni have joined our team, and I'm very grateful for that, because the fact that these 3, Sierra, G1, and Andrew, have all been in your shoes gives us a unique ability to be more customized and individualized in our approach to helping you. The way that they can share what their experience was in the program from a student side, and we can kind of weigh that into what your background is coming into the program, gives us a unique ability to be much more intentional about your job search and helping you craft those goals. Paul Allaire has been in coaching and advising for years and years. He cut his teeth as a recruiter for EY, so those teeth are sharp, and he's quite good at his job. The result actually is just such a total benefit for our students, because he can give that sometimes hard to hear feedback that the employers give us when they're talking to candidates. They want to be very precise in what they're looking for from candidates, and they would like us to coach you so that you can give them exactly what they want to hear during an interview. Paul is excellent at that. Andrew works predominantly with our MSBA program, which is a Master's of Science in Business Analytics program. He does a lot of coaching for what we like to call our more nonprofit focused or unusual non-corporate career path people in the MBA. Andrew has a tremendous amount of experience in the Athens community and really great contacts here. So I joined this in the role that Sierra Calloway now holds. And I want to tell you that that role is really instrumental in any career management center. We focus all of our external relationships through Sierra. And that gives us the ability to kind of funnel all of the information from our employers down to our coaches, so that all of our coaches have a clear understanding of what cultures are at each of the hiring companies. And as you probably know, or maybe you don't, many companies like to espouse a certain culture or say that this is who they are. Sierra is out there, feet on the street, getting to know these people and learning a lot about what the maybe more nuanced side of the culture is. And that kind of intel really helps our coaches be able to help you. I'm going to say one more thing about the team here. Igor Kiselev is also a graduate who has joined us recently to help with experiential learning. You will have the opportunity to do applied learning in our program, and that is to assist you with help you change paths, basically. So if you come with one background and you have no exposure to another that you choose to move after, we have a number of clients that we work with in the program to allow you to practice your MBA skills in applied learning so that you can demonstrate them. For instance, if you're coming from marketing and moving to operations, or vice versa, so that you have kind of a well-rounded background that you can talk to employers about. Annie Lineberry is our office manager. She holds us all together and would be the first person you see when you come in. I guess we can move along. So career services comes in a lot of different styles, shapes, and flavors in the MBA world. We are all, let's say, regulated by a body that is called MBA Career Services and Employer Alliance. They divide us into industries and functions for reporting purposes. So what you're looking at here is different ways that we are able to assist you, different services that we provide to make sure that you can stay market relevant while you are immersed in your education. Because as a full-time student, you are here going to classes 4 days a week. There is a lot of heads down studying, working in the group discussions, working in the group projects. We want to make sure that we're able to get you out and bring other employers in so that you have that balance of not just classroom, but experiential learning through capstones and market treks, and many people coming to campus, many employers and alumni coming to campus to share their insight and their career paths with you. Next. So as I mentioned before, there are different ways that we divide these career paths, and that's just based on our regulatory agency, which is MBA Career Services and Employer Alliance. They put industries in one bucket and functions in another. From our standpoint, we're going to talk more about functions because that's really where you typically choose your path. Meaning you want to go into work in consulting, or you want to work in operations and supply chain, or perhaps marketing and sales, finance, financial services. All of those are functions, and that is where these job families kind of originate. The whole job families idea came to us as part of orientation. And the three alumni that you're going to meet here are regulars in our job family event. This is the best way that we have found to share more market relevant and immediate information that is, let's say, most interesting to you when that is an alum that's talking about their career path and how they chose what they're doing now and what that means on a day-to-day basis, in addition to what they had to go through to get there, because there's a lot that goes into the job search, and it's not an event. It is a process. And believe me, these three that you're going to talk to today have a wealth of information about how to really navigate this process to their benefit and to yours. So let's just introduce our panelists and get started with some Q&A. I do welcome you to ask questions. We want to make this as informal as possible, but I want to get through a little bit of the content first so that we can kind of lay, let's say, a foundation. So you will have some understanding of who each of our panelists are and what their background is. Desiree Sullivan came to us from a local catering company and did an amazing job at her marketing role there for the company, but I'm going to let her tell you more. She is now with Georgia Pacific, landed there after an MBA internship where at the info session, she completely blew their socks off, and they thought she was so amazing that they had to hire her as an intern when they were here on campus. Benga Enoch, he is with Microsoft, and he maximized the opportunity at National Black MBA, which is one of the largest diversity conferences we have, and we regularly force is kind of an unsettling word. We ask or really encourage you to participate in the National Black MBA Conference and Career Expo. It is the largest recruiting affair of the fall. It comes early, and it would give you access to hundreds of employers that we normally wouldn't have access to because they're out in West or they're just not coming to Athens, Georgia. So that's one of the best ways we've found to get our talent in front of really top employers. Benga maximized that to get his internship at Microsoft very early on in his first year, and then leveraged that to his full-time opportunity there.
And have our panelists, our alums, go ahead and introduce themselves, and give Patti a moment to jump back in. I'm going to start with Desiree. Desiree, she had a great introduction for you, but certainly reiterate what you're currently doing now.
Yeah, happy to. Good morning, everyone. My name's Desiree. As Patti said, Patti's back. Do you want to finish your spiel, Patti?
I don't think so. I think you should just go ahead, Desiree. I'm going to follow your lead.
Okay, perfect. As Patti said, I actually am a double dog. So I got my undergrad at Georgia as well. I actually have an undergrad degree in PR and communications, and I used that to work at a local catering company in Athens, where I did a lot of PR, communications, marketing for them, learned a lot, but realized that, hey, I don't have the business acumen that I want, and I actually think I want to pivot away from more PR and more into marketing and even some general management. And so I pivoted, went to, obviously Terry to get my MBA, had an amazing experience, got a concentration in marketing and consulting, interned at Georgia Pacific during my first and second year, which was a great experience. Really loved the culture and the team and the people that I worked with, and turned that into a full-time opportunity. And now I've been at Georgia Pacific for about almost 7 years, which is crazy, and have kind of worked up. So I started as an associate brand manager and have now worked my way up to senior brand manager. So this kind of what I'm doing is marketing, yes, and a general management track. So I can kind of pivot this, at least at Georgia Pacific, to either become a general manager or a CMO is kind of the two tracks that we talk about at Georgia Pacific. So I'm still on my career journey trying to figure out which one is, most right for me and that I have the most passion for, but really enjoy my time there, and definitely enjoy the function that I've landed in.
Thanks, Desiree. That was awesome. I don't know where I got dropped. So if I have not completely introduced you guys, you're just going to go ahead and run with it, okay? Because I don't want to talk anymore. I want you guys to do the talking. Benga, I'm going to ask you to go next.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me, Patti?
Yeah.
Great. So I'm Benga Enoch, and I work for Microsoft as an HR business partner. And this role is my second rotation in Microsoft's HR leadership program. And
I'm sorry to interrupt. Could you check your camera?
To turn it on?
No, it doesn't show for me.
Oh, okay.
There you are. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Yeah. So I'm part of Microsoft HR leadership program, and this is my second rotation. And before getting this job and getting to the MBA program, I was actually in the digital marketing space, working for a startup, and was able to explore roles in business analysis and a little bit of HR. But at some point, I felt the need to just build my business acumen, expand my network, and thought that taking an MBA program would help me to realize that. And that was when I decided to join the MBA program. And Georgia MBA was top of mind because of the small size, and glad that I went through that experience. And so just excited that I'm here at Microsoft, and the MBA program set me up for that success. So I'm happy to share more about my experience and happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
You, Benga. Appreciate that. All right,
Sure.
Brian, I may have fallen off of the call without realizing it before I did any of the introductions, so I'm leaving it to you to give your wonderful introduction to our audience.
Okay, great. Yeah, I believe you cut off right when you said Brian Ransom. So,
Sorry.
I am the research director at Signature Wealth Management Group. That's a boutique, independent advisory group, private wealth management in Atlanta. And basically, I'm manage the equity and fixed income research for the team, as well as the portfolio management and trading. My background is a non-traditional background, so my undergrad degrees in biochemistry. I have a master's as well in genetics, and spent a number of years trying to bang my head against the wall, trying to figure out what to do with those advanced degrees, and never could quite figure it out. So ultimately decided that I wanted to do a career change and enrolled at the University of Georgia for an MBA. And when I arrived here, I really had never taken a business class in my life. So I didn't know anything about finance, but quickly fell into that role because I'm math oriented and that's where the math's at. So I focused my degree in finance, and happy to be here and answer the questions as well.
Excellent. Thank you so much. All right, so we're going to jump into this, much like we jump into the Job Families event, which is where we invite our alumni to talk a little bit about what they do on a day-to-day basis. And basically, this is really to help you understand more about the function and the jobs that exist in that function. So I'm going to start by asking Desiree. I'm going to ask you all three the same question, but Des, you go first. Tell me a little bit about marketing roles and what kind of things are prominent in marketing that are typical for MBAs to pursue after they graduate.
Yeah, and Patti, just to clarify, like jobs specifically? Okay,
yes,
perfect.
Please.
Yeah, so marketing, and Patti kind of alluded to this when talking a little bit about her background. There are a lot of things that fall under the marketing job family, I would say. So a couple of things to keep in mind. So the first thing, which I have most experience with, is what is called brand management. If you're working for like a CPG or a big brand like the Delta, the Coca-Colas of the world, brand management is a very popular kind of job title, but it also is typically like a general manager track as well. These people really set the vision and the goal for the brand or the business that you're working on. These people are the P&L owners. They are responsible for the product, innovation, marketing, channel strategy, commercialization, pricing, innovation. So they really, I like to say, they sit at the center of a hub and spoke wheel. If you can kind of imagine that image, they sit at the center and they work very closely with all of the different capabilities who can help them deliver and bring that brand vision to life. So again, brand management, sometimes called category or product management or general management. So that's the first track, which is what I sit in. There's also something called customer marketing, also known as shopper or trade marketing. These individuals are responsible for our assortment. So think about it. I work on AngelSoft and I have different SKUs that I sell at Walmart. They're responsible for making recommendations back to me about like which SKUs I should be selling at Walmart. They're also responsible for retailer pricing. They're responsible for line review negotiations. So these are really good negotiators. They sit in the room against the buyers at Walmart, Target, Dollar General, and negotiate shelf space and presence. And these people help us with our in-store, online promotions at specific retailers. And they act as a liaison between my team and then the sales team that is on the ground floor, kind of going and pushing these strategies forward. The third bucket is called like marketing research is what I would dub that, sometimes known as consumer knowledge. This can be an internal or an external role. So I have consumer knowledge that sit internally at Georgia Pacific that help me, but we also work with external vendors who do consumer or marketing research as well. on an internal side of things, this team owns our consumer profile. So they're very passionate about the target consumers we're going after. They recommend research methodologies back to us if we have a key question that we need to go answer, and they analyze data for us, right? So these are some very strong people or candidates in marketing analytics and data analytics. And then the last bucket I would talk about is an agency. I would say this is more people who are very passionate about advertising, very creative people, but they help me. So I have an agency in New York who helps me develop my brand marketing strategy. They recommend campaign creative ideas and executions. So they sit externally, but they are technically still a part of marketing. But that would be somebody that is more passionate about, creative creation, like graphic design, things like that. So those are kind of the 4 buckets I would call out under the marketing job function.
Excellent. Thank you. And that puts it very clear for you guys, because I have to tell you that almost all of these jobs that you're going to hear about, or these functions you're going to hear about, have a big blend of both hard skill and soft skill. So what you just heard from Desiree about the fact that you need to have some understanding of analytics, you have to have relationship building, you have to be able to negotiate. There's so much that goes into many of these different paths that will overlap. So choosing your path is really very personal, and you choose your path based on what you are drawn to. So next I'm going to ask Benga to talk a little bit about his LDP at Microsoft, and maybe just some LDP in general, to share what that is and what it looks like when you're going for one of those, what you would be drawn to as an interest in an LDP program.
Sure. Thanks, Patti. So I'll start with my current role. As I mentioned earlier, it's the HR leadership development program at Microsoft. And so it's HR focused. And so the goal of that program is to expose us to different sides of human capital and also different sides of the business. And so that's just one piece. But when you think about it holistically, we're thinking about the tech space. There's LDP programs in other functions. So at Microsoft, besides the HR, there's a finance leadership development program. There's a marketing development program. And so there's a couple options there to explore different functions, even within the tech space. And so when you also think broadly, for example, the consumer goods and product space, you think about Walmart, Procter & Gamble, there's opportunity there for the leadership development programs. And so you think about brand management, supply chain, all that is available there. When you think about the automotive industry, the Fords and the Toyotas, there's also opportunity there. So you think about that. I know that like one of my classmates then is a part of their marketing leadership development program. And that's about a 3 to 4 year rotation program. And so you get an opportunity to rotate through product management, consumer marketing, marketing communication. So there's a lot of opportunities in the LDP space. When you also think about the healthcare space, for example, Bristol Myers Squibb, the Johnson & Johnson as well. One of my classmates also landed there. So there's a couple opportunities there. So for that company, for example, they have a commercial MBA leadership development program. They have the business analytics leadership development program. And because they are heavily into research and development, they have an R&D leadership development program. So then they have another LDP focused on healthcare management and strategy. So you see that within the different industries, there are opportunities for the LDP programs in different functions. So that's about it. And just to wrap that up, for my role, there's an opportunity to be an HR business partner, which is more like a generalist. And then there's an opportunity to be a SME, subject matter expert, organization development specialist, or talent development manager, and those kind of things.
Excellent. Thank you. Yeah, Spenga is in the HR rotation, as he started to say in the beginning, something that he probably wouldn't want to boast about, but I can tell you very clearly, as a partner in the HR organization, you have a very strategic role in organizational development. So many of these LDPs will offer you opportunities to learn the entire business so that you can be a leader down the road and have an understanding of different aspects of that business that you came up through. So now I'm going to move to Brian. Brian, I love the fact that you shared that you came from a non-conventional background, because you certainly did. I remember when you came in, just the way that you were looking at all the different opportunities, kind of scratching your head going, I don't really know what I like. So please share a little bit about what you know about financial services and your role and some of the different positions that fall within financial services.
Yeah, I guess to kind of piggyback on that, I didn't realize when I first came in here that the careers in finance is as broad as it is. So when you're when you're a student looking to secure an internship or a full-time position, and you say, you know, I'm a student interested in career in finance, that doesn't really tell the recruiter anything, right? So, and I found that out the hard way several different times. But finance roles really kind of break down into two broad categories, and that's the sell side and the buy side, which really is basically who has the inside information and who does not, right? So this starting with the sell side, most of the positions within sell side are associated with investment banking. This is certainly one of the more lucrative financial career paths that you can take, but it's also amongst the most overworked positions that you could take. And you'll basically, you've got a couple of different areas that you can focus in. One is in underwriting, where a client, usually a private corporation, comes to you and says, hey, I need to issue some shares to the public. How do I price those shares? How do we evaluate and value our company? And how do we get those shares into the right investors? You can also do that via debt markets. And that's just sort of the same thing. How do we price this debt as we issue this to the general public? And also in investment banking, you can work in M&A, where you are acting as kind of like an advisor for the corporation looking to purchase a smaller corporation, and you know, basically just saying, here's the price that you should offer the management of this firm B in order to purchase them and merge them into your larger corporation. So that's investment banking. Also on the sell side is also corporate finance, another popular career path. You know, you'll be working for the larger corporations in the field of finance, and you kind of just making a lot of projections, really. And projections is pretty much all you're doing in finance, whether you're on the buy side or sell side, right? But in corporate finance, your manager, the CFO or the CEO may say, hey, we're looking to expand operations into, you know, this country, or, you know, create a new product. Can you put together a financial model that shows me how much in profitability we can achieve? What's our internal rate of return for that particular project? What is your projection there? And then that way management can make a decision on whether to move forward with that particular project. On the buy side, you really have broken it down. I like to break it down into asset gatherers and then asset managers. In traditional finance, the asset managers are going to be the portfolio managers for a mutual fund or a hedge fund or private equity. Most MBAs usually don't jump right into portfolio management. They usually go into a buy-side analyst position and then work their way up to management. But basically, you're just kind of sticking a value on an asset and you know, saying, this is a great buy, Mr. Portfolio Manager. I think you should buy stock ABC. So really there, it's just about identifying value. And then on the asset gatherer side, it's not really a traditional finance role. You don't necessarily have to be super fluent in finances and math and the markets in order to be an asset gatherer, meaning like a financial advisor or private wealth manager, or a stockbroker dealer. And you really, what is more important in those type of roles is just your ability to market yourself and be good at sales and be good at talking to people and managing relationships, and developing business. Being financially astute helps, but it's you don't have to be able to do regression analysis like a buy side analyst needs to be able to do. Yes, traditionally financial advisors are in the finance sector, but it's almost practically a marketing role. So, and then there are other positions that kind of fit in between buy side and sell side, and that's private equity, private credit, and venture capital. So usually you don't start off in those roles, though. You have to work your way in. So
it's actually a very complex path. To be very honest, it does have a number of transferable skills that can come from your an even unconventional background, but it really is one of those areas that requires a lot of research on your own and talking to people who are doing the jobs in order to really figure out how you can fit your transferable skills into the path that you want to take. So Brian, you gave me a tremendous segue to move into the next question. And I'm going to begin with Des. If you could share a little bit, Des, about just the skills, both hard and soft, that you rely on a regular basis, and perhaps how you were able to hone them by using the MBA degree.
Yeah, that's a really good question, Patti. So honestly, when I'm kind of interviewing for the next bench, we call them bench of ABMs, which are candidates that are coming straight out of the MBA, the skill sets that we're looking for are, one, the ability to influence and inspire. In this role, as I said, you're setting the brand vision, you are developing more strategic points of view, and you are, again, at the center of the wheel. And so you have to influence throughout the organization so that people get on board with your vision. They are willing to execute against your vision. They're willing to kind of partner with you and help you. So the ability to influence and inspire is very important. I would say strong critical and strategic thinking skills. I need to see areas on your resume where you have been able to take a very complex problem and be able to kind of problem solve. Like it doesn't mean that you did that on your own, but that you're able to kind of manage through a complex situation and come up with a recommendation. You're able to make decisions. You're able to think critically and assess different alternatives and weigh the risks and benefits and trade-offs of those decisions. And you can do that within a team, but we just need to see that you're able to kind of do that and drive that ship. Analytical and economic thinking is the third skill set. And what that means, I think analytical is kind of self-explanatory, but don't knock any of your analytics classes, right? And for me personally, that's not where I got the most passion. Like even Brian was a huge finance guy. We were in the same year. Like I didn't have a ton of like passion for finance, but I use finance every day. I use marketing analytics every day. And then economic thinking, the way that we talk about that at Georgia Pacific, at least, is every day I have different decisions that I have to make. And I'm weighing, again, the trade-offs, the risks, the benefits of each kind of outcome, if you're thinking of like a decision tree. So being able to pit different alternatives against each other and be able to not get paralyzed, but able to kind of articulate the value of whatever decision I'm making to my leader is very key and critical. A lot of times you want to root that in data. So that's where kind of the analytics side comes into things. To Brian's point, like assessing like, okay, well, what's going to have the greatest return on my investment? Which of these is going to drive the most value, whether that's volume, whether that's, profitability, et cetera. I have to be able to kind of speak to those things and be able to calculate those things offhand whenever I'm making a decision. You heard a lot about me saying decisions. In this role, you are a decision maker. So if you're somebody that gets a little bit worried about, hey, I don't want all of the accountability, I don't want to make decisions, that's totally okay, but then this probably just isn't the role for you. You have to be able to make decisions, be able to move, and be able to hold yourself accountable for both the positive as well as the not so positive outcomes that can happen from decision making. And then I think some of the soft skills, I would say those are kind of more of the hard skills. I would say the soft skills that I often looked for. One is creativity. We need people that think outside of the box. If we're too scared to disrupt the status quo and we're not looking to transform and have transformative ideas, then we're going to fall behind challenger brands that are like Dollar Shave Club that just disrupted the entire razor category. We need people on our end that are willing to help us disrupt very long-standing retail branded categories. Adaptability and flexibility is a huge soft skill that I talk a lot about with my leader. When you're sitting and you're running the business, you need to have an entrepreneurial mindset, because even though I'm not having to pony up the investment, I am looked at as a principled entrepreneur of AngelSoft. I'm a brand owner. I make decisions. So in a way, you need to have an entrepreneurial spirit. And a part of that is being flexible and adaptable. So today my business could be doing really well, but then tomorrow my business could completely go haywire. I'm thinking back to COVID. Nobody expected to disrupt the toilet paper category like it did. And we had to be very adaptable and flexible and be able to pivot our plans and strategies and not get hung up on, well, we said we were going to do this. Well, when something like COVID happens, you have to change what you said you were going to do. And again, that's where the influence and inspiration comes in, because you have to really drive that ship. And then I think the last piece is just emotional intelligence. And I think emotional intelligence is something that's very important. I think Paul and Patti speak to this a lot throughout the MBA program. Do not knock the soft skills. Being able to have a conversation with somebody, being able to read a room. Like if you're in the room and you're in the middle of a negotiation with a buyer at Walmart, he is doing certain tactics to make you a little uncomfortable so that you are less on your game for negotiations, right? And so there are things that you can learn in the MBA program about how to be a better negotiator, about how to be a better speaker, about how to have more presence when you're talking to a large group of people. Those are all things I would try to hone. And if I think back to, I think that the Georgia MBA program gave me a lot of very good hard skills that I was able to kind of take and implement in my role. I wish I would have paid more attention to the soft skills, because I think that's what can set you apart. And it's not for lack of the CMC not having all of these opportunities, but sometimes when you're in the busy, you're getting bogged down with finals and all these sorts of things, you might think it's not as important. But I think being able to kind of have the presence, being able to speak to one slide, being able to command attention of a room goes a long way and will actually set you apart from other candidates that you're going to be going up against during the interview process.
Wow, Des, I'm like so impressed that you think that you didn't get great soft skills. You came with a bunch of them, so I will gladly take credit for anything that we developed while you were here. But honestly, everyone on the call needs to understand you come with a number of transferable skills. And the MBA is designed as a general business degree to assist you filling gaps of places where you feel like there are things you could learn to apply to a new career path. So thank you very much for that. I'm going to move to Brian this time. I'm going to go out of order because I'm looking at you on the screen. And now, Brian, you're next on my queue. Could you talk a little bit about the skills, both hard and soft, that you have been demonstrating regularly in your role?
Yeah, sure. I will start with the hard skills, and right off the bat, Excel is a must. The entire world economy is built on the back of Excel. So if you can't understand and work Excel without, utilizing a mouse and quickly work through the keyboard shortcuts, then, that is the absolute bare minimum. You have to be able to work Excel. More advanced data analytics skills in R and Python and SQL are very helpful, especially if you want to work for some of the larger corporations. As far as the soft skills are concerned, in finance, really a lot of it is about having the ability to communicate advanced financial topics in a digestible manner, whether that be, if you're in corporate finance and you're presenting your financial model to the CEO doesn't have time to walk you through what's going on in your financial model. So you just need to be able to quickly communicate the results in the model, right? Or if you're in private wealth management and you're working with a client who doesn't have the financial acumen that you do, then you need to be able to, work through something like the Fama French factor modeling into, talking to someone who doesn't have a business degree like you do. So communication skills, I like to. One thing that our business likes to look into is I like to call it like just basic entrepreneurship, which, I'm not sure if that's the right term, but just the ability to kind of find and create and execute your own projects. You're not necessarily given your own projects, but you can sort of figure out where you fit into the business and how those particular projects add efficiency and value to the business as a whole. And that is a rare skill that we have found over the years is not necessarily universal amongst all the interns and full-time employees. Interview prep. I came into the MBA program as a notoriously bad interviewer, and the poor second-year student who I made me do 20 or 30 mock interviews before I finally did my first mock interview. And that really helped out. So working with someone to help you prepare for those interviews is really helpful. And I'm not sure if this quite qualifies as a hard or a soft skill, but really in the financial markets, there's a lot of white noise out there. So having the ability to work through that noise and kind of put together your own capital markets assumptions is a rare skill in finance, especially on the buy side. So
very interesting. I think you've heard a pattern here of the ability to take complex information and break it down and offer it in something that's digestible. That is one of the things that you will do frequently in the classroom for case discussions, and you continue to practice that when you get into your career path. So Benga, I'm leaving you for last on this particular one because I am an HR OD nerd and organizational development is close to my heart. And because you are in a role now that is very strategic related to HR and organizational development, I'm looking to you to share now some of the skills that you are using and learned in the MBA program and regularly use on a day-to-day basis in your role.
Sure, thanks, Patti. One of our leaders was speaking with us a couple days ago, and he was saying, in HR, it's not about Excel spreadsheet, it's about people. But the fact still remains that when you think from the hard skills perspective, Excel is still a big deal. You still have to do some kind of work in Excel. And so I'll just reiterate what Desiree and Brian have said about Excel. Very important. You want to make sure you nail that down. And then I just want to add another layer to it. We used to say data is the new oil, but hey, AI it's taking the front burner now. And so it's good to be able to work on Excel, but next phase will now be how do you then leverage AI to do the work for you in Excel? So it's good to begin to have that big picture thinking that it's Excel, data and analytics, but also AI. That's the future. So that's for the art skill. And hey, PowerPoint, you can't forget PowerPoint because it's very important that you are able to create engaging slide decks, and you are able to organize information in a very concise, succinct way, as Desiree mentioned. And then that ties then to the soft skills, storytelling, not just organizing the content, but then being able to tell the story. So storytelling becomes very key, and which also ties to communication skills. You need to be able to communicate. And like Patti said, you will get that in class because you would have to present at different times for different classes. So that's very important. And I would also stress systems thinking. As we do the org design work, you're thinking systems. You're not just trying to fix a symptom or address a problem. You're trying to look at the other layers, the drivers, the contributors. And so that ability to think in systems, really it's very helpful. And what helps to activate that in the MBA program is the cases. And so you take a case, it's got the finances, the financials, the marketing piece. And so you start training your mind to be able to connect the dots and, bring the pieces together. So I would say that consultative mindset, systems thinking is very key. And you'll definitely get it in the MBA program. When I think about corporate strategy, strategic management, those are classes I would ever be grateful for. And so the MBA program it's been set up with those classes to really help you to, activate those skills, both hard and soft skills. And just the last piece I would say is from a people standpoint, especially in the HR body of work, you need to have strong empathy. It's about the people. And so you need to be able to identify with people. You need to be able to let people know that you identify with, what they're going through. And so that's very key. And of course, it also applies even outside of HR. You want to show your clients that you're passionate about their business, right? And their business is your business. So you need to be able to demonstrate that as well. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a question in the chat that I'm going to weigh in on quickly. The question is, how much weight does it carry between which career path in the curriculum one chooses? So I will answer it in broad terms. When you are joining us during orientation and in your early career appointments, Paul will ask you to choose concentrations to put on your resume for signals to the market. In many cases, he will ask you to put up to 3 concentrations on your resume so that we can signal to the employers what it is you're interested in. As you proceed through the program, you will get more, just targeted on the things that you really want to cover. So concentrations are not necessarily listed on your transcript. On your transcript, you will have your grades and regular MBA program. You are receiving a degree as a Master of Business Administration. The concentration you choose will help guide your studies, but doesn't necessarily have to be the thing that you end up doing for the rest of your life. So now I'm going to turn it over to you guys and tell me how you would weigh in on choosing a concentration, what that concentration signal does, and if you do want to pivot later, how you have been able to or how you plan to pull on different skills to possibly move from one function to another. Anyone?
I'm not good to answer this question, Patti. I kind of came in knowing what I wanted to do. Like I'm the type of person that kind of has always known that I've had a passion for marketing. What I didn't know is what could I go do with that. And I think talking with some of the second years, there was a second year who kind of introduced me to brand management. And then once I kind of understood that brand management seems like a good place for me, I studied the job descriptions to then determine, okay, what concentrations or what classes really do I think I need to be able to go do this job? And then what concentration does that result in? And it ended up resulting in like marketing and, like I said, consulting, which is more of an entrepreneurial, and an entrepreneurial track as well. So I think I kind of flexed between those 3 and felt that I was pretty well prepared. So my advice would be to, like, if you have interest in areas, look at the job descriptions. Talk with your second years about, okay, hey, I think I might like finance. What do those jobs look like? And then what what classes do I need to be able to do that job successfully? And then that will likely result in a combination of things to get you to a concentration.
Very good, thanks.
Right. I'll just add one or two other things to that. I think one strategy is also to Desiree's point, identify the kind of roles or jobs that you want to do, and then talk to people, Georgia alumni that have, they're filling those kind of roles, and then engage with them to understand, okay, so what classes did you take? And, how might you guide me on, what concentration and things like that. So I would say that's one strategy. The other strategy is, even when you're not sure of certain areas that you might want to go into, you don't have to necessarily take on a concentration, because concentration implies that there's a number of classes that you need to take to fulfill the requirements for that concentration. But sometimes it's just about taking one or two classes within that concentration. So that's another strategy for how to go about it. It doesn't hurt to take one or two and just see if that's really what you wanted to. So that would be the way I would think about it.
Good. Anything to add, Brian?
Yeah, I guess I do help out our hiring manager with recruitment occasionally. I don't think I've ever taken a look at a transcript in my life. But then again, we're a small business. We're not, a large business that might be a little bit more meticulous. But as far as the transcript is concerned, like the GPA is important in the sense that if you have a 1.0 GPA, we're probably not going to hire you. But if our choices are between a 3.5 GPA and a 4.0 GPA, but the 3.5 has a clearly more demonstrated ability to hone their soft skills, then we might probably would consider hiring the 3.5 over the 4.0. So, the soft skills are definitely important. The grades are important, but it's not end all be all. It's more like a hurdle that you have to pass. So.
Thank you. There was a question also in chat for you specifically, Brian, talking about your interest in getting the MBA after you had advanced degrees already. I'm wondering if we have other people out there with already master's degrees in their back pocket and wondering what the MBA did for you and why you chose to get it.
Yeah, so I technically I don't really use my past advanced degrees, my past masters. I was looking for a career change. I knew I didn't really want to be in the sciences anymore, and I was interested in the financial markets. That kind of stemmed from, graduating during the global financial crisis and wondering what the heck happened. So really, it was just kind of a curiosity that intrigued me. And Georgia had a great reputation. I was accepted, so I needed to do something. So that's just the career path that I walked down. So.
Interesting. Very good. Thank you. So there's another question about how the Career Management Center has addressed the evolving needs of new businesses and changes. To tell you the truth, it is somewhat reactive lately because things are changing so rapidly. We have not seen previous trends to COVID that have given us kind of the track record to go from. So what we do is, and I'm saying we in the royal we, Sierra is very involved in conversations, strategic conversations with the hiring managers and executives at companies to learn what their goals are, from their demand goal, meaning how many people they hope to hire in each individual area, how many interns they want to hire, to the longer term, what does the path look like at your organization? What does it look like in consulting now that perhaps you did a little bit of over hiring and you've got a lot of people on the bench? Help us understand how we present that opportunity to our students. So what we do is really just take a very individual approach, and we learn what we can from the employers who work with us and are very involved in the marketplace, meaning that we work with other MBA programs, and I have many colleagues throughout the country that do similar things to what we do, so that we stay in the know on how things are going in the industry and what we have to be aware of, both as students are preparing for interviews and what we have to be aware of to make sure the curriculum is market-centered. So I'm going to move along and ask if we could get the alumni panelists to talk a little bit more about what you've learned to be successful, and maybe, if you have a chance, the day-to-day of your job. Because a lot of people have some mystery around what an MBA job looks like when you get out there. Share a little bit of day-to-day, and how have you been able to be successful? Bengo, will you go first?
Yes, I can. So I would say that on a day-to-day basis, I'm dealing with people. And so I have a client that have different needs. So today might be a need to hire, to do an executive hire. Tomorrow it might be an issue around a talent performance issue. And tomorrow it might be about, you know what, we need to rethink how this organization is, designed. And so it's just, you really don't know what comes. Each day each day comes with its challenges. But what is pretty constant is you're dealing with people. And so it's meetings, most times it's coaching leaders. And when you're not doing that, you're on PowerPoint trying to prepare for a presentation and things like that. So that's just a rough idea of that. That's a day in the life. The other question, Patti, was what was that?
How have you been successful? What makes you successful at what you do?
Oh, okay, great. Well, I think top of mind is the passion for people that shows up. People know when you really care for them, and you want them to succeed. And so that has really, opened the doors, because when people see that, oh, you really care, you're invested in your business, that makes you a trusted business partner. So that's key. The other piece is being agile. As everybody has said, things are changing real quick. And so the ability to be able to reinvent yourself or rethink your strategy, or, retweak a particular approach, that's really been very helpful for me. And that's what Microsoft calls the growth mindset. So you're not stuck in your ways to say this is the only way to go about it. So the ability to be able to, flex has really helped me to be successful.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I think that growth mindset is also what Brian maybe alluded to in looking for initiative and autonomy, and how to develop maybe a project when there wasn't really a project there to begin with. So Des, can you talk to us a little bit about your day-to-day, a day in the life, if you will, and then maybe what's made you successful?
Yeah, that's really tough. Just only because my day is different every single day. It is never consistent, which I love. I thrive in that sort of environment. I will say on any given day or any given quarter, I'm working on 5 different projects. And so there are various meetings that I have to have throughout the week to do that. So in one day, I could be talking with a senior leader, I could be talking with my external agency, I could be talking with the promotions team, I could be talking with the sales team, and I could be talking with the innovation team. And that would be a really robust before lunch agenda. And then after, it's again a slew of different things. I also get a lot of joy out of managing people. So I do have a couple direct reports. And so essentially that is my number one job, is to be a supervisor to them and ensure that I'm setting them up for success. So I set the team vision, I set what projects and they need to be working on, which then means I sometimes need to be their backup, their coach, their quarterback to ensure that they're being successful. So that's a large, I would say my time, like maybe a better way to answer that, a large, how my time is divided. I would say probably 30% of my time is divided to coaching my team, making sure that they have what they need. Another 30% is divided towards like influencing the organization and driving my vision and saying, this is why I think we need to be doing what we need to be doing. Another 30% is just getting the day-to-day done, doing the work. And then 10% I try to reserve to network. Like I went to a conference in Orlando a couple of weeks ago where there are marketers out there at other bigger brands that I can learn. So 10% of my time I try to dedicate to how do I build my knowledge? How do I become a lifelong learner? How do I keep advancing the marketing capability and my knowledge? So that's how I try to divide my time. Of course, it's never that clean and neat. There are times where, we have to kind of like adjust. But I think to give you a sense of like some projects that I'm working on. So this year, some of the big things that I did is I completely looked at our packaging for our product and completely redesigned how we will show up at shelf for consumers. I also launched a completely new marketing campaign. We also transitioned a new product improvement into the market. And so working with the sales teams to kind of push that to the retailers. We are also working on a 2026 plus product innovation. So those are some of the key projects that I've played quarterback on. And then as you think about internships, like I know the next question is always like, well, what does that mean if I was to intern? Because there's a lot of work that needs to be done. So some examples of internship projects that we've given. So we've asked somebody to improve the commercial strategy for a seasonal scent item that we have on our brand. And when I say commercial strategy, we're looking for the intern to recommend, hey, these are the right portfolio or assortment that you should have at Walmart. This is where you should distribute that product. So should it be grocery, mass, and dollar? Should it just be .com on Amazon? What is the pricing strategy? What is the marketing strategy? So that full holistic go-to-market strategy for a specific subset of our business. We've also asked, when I worked on the towel category, like, should we exit the printed paper towel business on this brand? So we will sometimes, if we know that there's a part of the business that is kind of floundering, we'll throw it to the intern and say, like, should we exit this, or what should we do to kind of improve its success rate? So those kind of gives you a sense of like what sorts of projects fall under this bucket. They are real questions, at least at Georgia Pacific, that we have and we need somebody to work on. So the work that interns do is very valuable for us, and we often refer back to their points of view at later points in time. And then to Patty's last question of like, what makes me successful? I think a lot of the skills that I rattled off at the beginning, I think I am, at GP, I'm seen as like a reliable, trusted partner. I think that's a soft skill. So I think that goes a long way. I think being flexible, being a critical thinker, being willing to collaborate, not being afraid to challenge the status quo and have an opinion and be able to defend and debate your opinion. And I think Brian had a really good point about autonomy. I think that's a big thing at Georgia Pacific as well, autonomous leadership. I think a lot of people come out of school and expect to be given all of these projects. And in reality, there is a lot of trying to find different problem or need states or opportunities for the business that then you're going and pitching to your manager to say like, hey, I noticed this. Do you mind if I take a stab at coming up with a point of view on that? And that's a lot how you kind of come up with projects on your roster, and we call that autonomous leadership at Georgia Pacific. So being able to be an individual thinker and go away and do that on your own without a lot of hand-holding is a skill set that is highly, highly valuable at this organization.
Excellent point. I'm just going to add to that point that employers do have an expectation in hiring an MBA that you will come in and be an internal consultant, which means basically just what Desiree said, what Benga said earlier, and what Brian has alluded to. There is an expectation that your graduate business degree is going to help you look at the organization as a whole, help you look at the function that you're in, and then how the partnership relationships live across the board, and how you can make an impact. Because every MBA is an investment. that company is investing a good amount of money in you, both through salary and benefits and your long-term career management. They have high expectations of you offering a lot of return on that investment. And a lot of that comes from strategic thinking and helping them recognize things that need to be pushed forward when perhaps they didn't come up with that on their own as an organization. So now I'm going to switch back to Brian and ask a little bit about your day-to-day and how you have leveraged your skills to be successful in it.
Yeah, a lot of my day-to-day is in Excel and reading. So, you know, I'm basically at the computer for 8-10 hours a day. So, you know, as far as like what skills I've used to help me be successful in my job, a lot of what we do here is very process oriented, where every time that we're meeting with a client or every week we have I have a certain deliverable that has to get out to the advisors so that they can communicate with their own individual clients. And that's, you know, every single Thursday at the exact same time, I know exactly where I'm going to start and work through that particular deliverable. And that, by the way, that was actually something that a process that I created via my own initiative. And I hope has added a lot of value to our team. You know, being process oriented and being able to wear multiple hats. You know, I am a finance guy, I'm a math geek, but I also lend a hand to marketing. I do a little bit of business development, business analytics. So being able to, especially if you're in a small business, being able to wear multiple hats can really help out a small business. And then one last thing, going back to being process oriented, we try not to get every single deliverable or project perfect. We like to say that perfection is the enemy of execution. To us, being process oriented and getting a result out, a good result out. It doesn't have to be perfect every single time, but getting a result out is really important to our team. So,
excellent. Okay, I see a couple of questions here that I'm going to address. Chances for international students to secure a job. I can't tell you how important this question is, because it is such a marathon for international students coming in with a job search process in mind. This is something that we work very hard and closely with each individual student to develop and identify the career goals that you have, and then help you identify the best path forward. I would tell you it starts extremely early, meaning we want to get you focused on what your goals are, what kind of company you want to work for, and develop your network so that you can ask all of the tough questions. We want to make sure also that you have a good understanding of your transferable skills and what I like to call career anchors, meaning those things that you know you're not going to give up. No matter what, you want that in your career. It could be variety. It could be creativity. It could be autonomy. It could be technical expertise. But everyone has kind of a different anchor that will guide them towards their most satisfying career. So when we begin with an international student, you're going to have some tough messages. You would talk to people where they're like, no, we don't sponsor. Well, that can't be the end of that conversation necessarily, because you may want to learn a lot more about that organization that will add to your candidacy later. So I always encourage our international students to recognize that taking a long-term marathon approach to your lifelong career management is the way to go. You cannot look at this as one transaction and another transaction. And I'm going to ask actually Benga to join me in this conversation, because I think he has a very clear understanding of so many of the challenges that international students face. One last thing, marketing as a concentration. Absolutely, you can choose marketing as a concentration, but we've seen that concentration does not have the same, let's say, appeal for the marketplace as wide as maybe analytics and marketing together. So Now I'm going to give it to Benga to talk a little bit about international students and the successes and challenges that they face.
Yeah, thanks, Patti. So Patti has touched on one side of the coin, and I would say yes, and the other side of the coin will then be that in spite of the challenges, the program has recorded some significant success with international students. And so it's not a case where it's so bad that international students are not getting jobs, good jobs, in fact. And to Patti's point, you've got to start early. I know 2 of the current first years got the internship offer before they started the program, right? So that's what we're talking about. You want to really start early, and then you want to plug into that community, of international students. That's where you'll be able to receive, help, from each other, sharing resources and opportunities. But it's doable. You can get that dream job. So, period.
Thank you. That is absolutely true. Do not let me give you the idea that you cannot. Success is within your grasp. As an international student, it takes a certain amount of grit and a certain amount of, to Brian's point earlier, process orientation. Recognize how you go about this as a process and working your network and developing your skills. We have found that so many of the international students that come here are the cream of the crop, like the top talent in the program. And it really is important that they recognize they have to give attention both to academics and to job search. And sometimes that's a very difficult change to accept when you come from a country that is all about academics and you've got to have a 4.0 and be at the top of your class. And we're going to ask you to be a little bit more broad in, yes, academics are important, but we're also going to make sure you're going to go to the National Black MBA Conference and be gone for 3 days. And how are you going to handle that with the classroom when you get back? So thank you very much, Benga. I do appreciate it.
Great.
There is a question about what target companies recruit at UGA. Let me give you the top ones that we've had people join recently, because everybody recruits here, to be honest. We have an enormous campus, so that a lot of the undergrad employers that come also will talk with our MBAs. But because we are less focused on on-campus recruiting and more focused on you and your goals, we try to push towards those people that are going to be most accepting and attracted to your background. AT&T is a big a company for us. Georgia Pacific has been a wonderful company over the years. We have lots of connections for national companies at the national fairs. So we've had success at JP Morgan Chase, at Citi, at EY, at Amazon, at my goodness, the list goes on and on. Deloitte, yes, of course, many organizations. Honestly, it helps us if you can tell us what your targets are, and then we can help you chase down how you get there. We have tremendous responsibility for helping you achieve your goals. So now I'm going to move into the last bit of question here that really just does ask our alumni to offer advice and suggestions on how you can be successful in a program, in the MBA program, and in a career, just navigating all of the things that go into this next phase of your life. Coming to a residential full-time MBA program is an adjustment, right? Because you've been out working for a while. So let me ask our alumni to give you some of the insights that they've gleaned over the years and their advice and suggestions on how to be successful, either in the interview process or in the program overall. Oop, Lee popped on. Is it okay?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I was going to say, this could serve as our last question for the webinar.
All right. Very good. Thank you. So Brian, I'm going to go to you first, if you wouldn't mind. Let's tell the group what it takes to be successful and how you navigate this whole next phase in moving to an MBA program and then moving through it to your career.
Yeah, I think priority number one for me, coming from a non-traditional background and not really knowing what I wanted to do the day I stepped on the UGA's campus, was to figure out what to do once I stepped on UGA's campus. And that kind of, for me, the career management services really helped narrow down my list by identifying my strengths and what I wanted within a career from like a broad perspective. And that was really priority number one for me, was having something that was intellectually challenging, and having something where the decisions that I made within the business were going to have an impact on the business as a whole, as well as the clients, and being able to, help people navigate, whatever needs that they had. And so that really kind of helped narrow down my list from a very broad set of career paths, from investment banking, corporate finance, and private equity, and kind of eliminate those choices and narrow it down to private wealth management, where I'm doing the asset management within financial private wealth management. And so from there, I was able to adequately communicate on my resume and in interviews what I wanted to do, why I wanted to do these things. And that really helped secure my internship back in, gosh, that was 2016, 7 years ago. And, so that was, I was able to find my target company via networking, and speaking with my classmates. He connected me to this manager over at Raymond James, who connected me to my current boss, and that effectively turned into my internship. And then doing the things that we've talked about throughout this, with having initiative and forming your own process, that kind of quickly allowed me to leverage the skills that I had during the internship into the full-time position, which I currently have. And so my internship turned into my full-time position, and I've been with them ever since. So starting from the top, just figuring out what you want to do, and utilizing your strengths, and utilizing what you want in a career path, and career management will help you, guide you through that. And believe me, I didn't have a clue when I first started. So
thank you, Brian. I think it's really important to kind of even just more succinctly help you understand that knowing yourself is critical, right? You've got to learn a little bit more about yourself and then relate that to what else is out there. When you come in with complete self-awareness, we are so much more able to help you move to your best opportunities. Des, can I ask you to go next?
Absolutely. Into myself again. Okay, there we go. So I think Brian had a lot of good things. A couple additional things I would pepper in there is that they dive in and fully commit. Like don't halfway do this thing. Like if you're gonna invest the time and the money, make sure that you're fully ready to commit and dive in. I think Brian's immediately right. I had a very similar approach, even though I kind of knew marketing was what I wanted to do. I came into this really with the first priority of figuring out what I want to do. How do I refine my resume? How do I prepare myself for interviews and the pitch process and all of those things that Paul will talk to you about? Just do them. But I think that there is an element of what Patti just said of knowing who you are. The CMC can only help you as much as you're willing to help yourself. Like they can't tell you all of the answers. You have to come in knowing some idea of like passion points, or what gets you excited, or what would make you want to get up and go to work every day. Like those are things that you're going to have to do some self-reflection and figure out on your own. And I don't want to undersell how important that is, because I think if you're very wishy-washy, it's okay to have a couple different alternatives in areas, but if you're very wishy-washy and a little scared to commit or at least dip your toes in, I think that's where some of the trouble comes in. So being self-aware and knowing what you want, I think is important work that you can begin now, even before you get into the program, so that then there's a more clear roadmap, and the CMC is really there helping guide you and help define that path for you versus completely starting from scratch. I think it goes without saying, they'll tell you this 1,000 times, go to the conferences. I actually got a lot of joy out of the conferences. Like I enjoy talking with companies. I enjoy interviewing. So I think go to those. Flip that into an internship, and then flip that internship into a full-time job. Like, I think that those are very critical things that you should do to make your experience that much more enjoyable, to be honest. I think there is a bit of a sigh of relief when you get an internship or you have multiple internships that you can choose between. So I would definitely do the work. And that comes in with preparation. That was a big word that I just wrote down as preparation. That's preparing before you get into the program, prepare while you're in the program, prepare for your internship. I think the more that you do that, the more you're setting yourself up for success in the long term. And then I think network. Like, I think that a lot of the benefit of doing a full-time program is that you have time to build and establish connections and a network that can then keep serving you in the future. And I think if you don't build that network, that's just a disadvantage to you, because that's still a well of mine that I can tap into if ever I want to kind of like eventually leave Georgia Pacific, or let's say I have a question and I want to bounce it off of a colleague. Having a network established is a differentiator for me versus other colleagues in the industry. And then I think lastly, like, don't stop having fun. Have as much fun as you can while you're here. Athens is a great place to be. There's great food, a great music scene. Obviously the football, if that's something that you're interested in. I mean, we have a really, really great team. I'm jealous that you guys would be there, where we have a national championship winning team. So I would definitely make sure that you're balancing all of the hard work that we just talked about in the upfront with blowing off some steam and having fun at UGA as well.
Excellent advice. Thank you. Okay, Benga, your turn.
Yeah, thank you. I love the last point. Desiree, have fun. By all means, work hard and play hard. Very important. And you've all covered pretty much the things I wanted to say. So I would just reinforce here and there and add one or two other points. So the first, to the point of, make sure you go out there to the job fairs, flip into internship. I would say that go with the mindset that you've got value to bring to the table, and not come across as, I'm desperate, you need to give me this job. The MBA program it's part of what it does is rewire our mindset and build certain confidence. And so the way you want to show up as you begin to interview is to be able to demonstrate that you have done some homework about the company, you understand their mission, the vision, the strategy, and you are able to bring something to the table, and you're a fit. And so you want to be able to demonstrate that. And to Desiree's point about, willingness to learn, I shared in the past about a poll I took with my classmates from different companies. I said, what are those top of mind skills? And I asked them independently, and everybody came back with a theme, which is willingness to learn. And so we can overemphasize the need for you to not just say, I'm willing to learn, but demonstrate it. Let your resume tell that story that you're agile, you're willing to, learn quick and things like that. So, and then the other piece I would say is that while it's good to have a good sense of direction, self-awareness, there's the Joaris window, if you've heard about it, the 4 quadrant. And one piece of that quadrant is there's a piece of me that I know that others don't know. There's a piece of me that I know and others know. But there's a piece of me that I know that I don't know, but others know. And so that's where CMC comes in to help, rethink certain decisions. And so just come with an open mind. And we've seen cases of people that come into the business school with the goal to achieve this or to land in this role or this function, but they ended up landing in another function. So have that growth mindset, be open, because when you get in the program and start taking those classes, boom, you suddenly begin to realize that, so there all the opportunities that I didn't know about. So come with that mindset. And the last thing, it's more of a challenge to you. We need to model the culture of helping each other. and building those muscles. And so from a psychological standpoint, if you notice that I'm being intentional to say, oh, based on what Brian said, based on what Desiree said, what I'm trying to model is I'm building off their points and modeling a culture of, what Microsoft calls leveraging on others people's work to achieve success. So it's good to be an individual contributor. Individual accomplishment is key. But how did you get there? How did you accomplish it? Did you leverage on other people's work? And so the time has really come for us to emphasize that too. So as you go through the job search and all, work together with your classmates, collaborate. It's good to be competitive, but you got to be collaborative, help each other in the job search. That's the way to go. And so I'll leave that, and hopefully we can continue to cultivate that culture. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Benga. Yes, I would say that that is actually the heart of the UGA Georgia MBA program, and that is we are a team. We really work together for everyone's best benefit. We want the happiest group of people, let's say greatest happiness for greatest number. And we're going to do our very best with you individually and all of the students that come together. We kind of choose you pretty deliberately. So as you go through the admission process, you're going to be looked at and selected based on your core principles, like who you are. We want to bring in all of the right people that keep our culture alive, which is collaborative, and teamwork is huge here. So we look forward to working with you in the future, and we're thankful that you have chosen us as your, hopefully you have chosen us already. I don't know how far along you are in the process, but we hope that you will be here as a full-time MBA student in the near future, and we look forward to working with you. Thank you very much, all of my alumni. I so appreciate all of you. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Patti, and thank you for the alums that joined us today. We have